again, Joanne, you've done a great job introducing everything and everyone and welcoming us all back, but I do want to thank everyone as well for attending, and Joanne, for giving me this opportunity again. I think this is my second or third time I presented to the group, and different attendances, so this is a little more intimate setting, so it's good. But hopefully this is, it's January, right? It's a new year, and we're getting off on the right foot. We're all getting back out there. Events are going to start happening again, and lots and lots of optimism. So again, thank you. So again, we're going to talk today about digital strategy in 2022, and we're going to talk about the right tools and tactics so companies can drive more leads. If you could advance it, please, Caitlin. So we're going to start off with a quick introduction of Broadbase and a little bit more about me. We're going to talk about what the digital landscape looks like today, and then we're going to segue into how you can align your strategy to drive leads and be successful on that landscape, and then turn it over if we want to do a Q&A, depending on if we have time. Please. So again, not to harp too much on the pandemic, but I know we've talked about it quite a bit, and it's been at the forefront for all of us, but it really has changed the way that we market to our prospects and customers online. And I know this audience in particular, Joanne, is a lot of communications professionals as well as job seekers, in addition to marketing people. So it's always cool to kind of get the round table when we have these, and talk about all the different ways that things have been affected by what's going on in the world. And we definitely have a lot to talk about now. So again, what worked before, maybe not work now. What didn't work before, maybe is working now, and that's part of what we're going to talk about today. And if you are finding that maybe your strategy is lagging behind, like I say here, or if you just think it's time to refresh a couple of things, we're going to talk about that too. So what's changed, what's working, and what we're going to see as the year goes on. So this is a quick introduction to Broadbase. This is myself and our founder and CEO, Jan Hirabayashi. You can probably tell which is which. Jan founded our agency in 1996, so we're going on 26 years. Not quite as long as you, Steve, but we're catching up. So lots changed, in 26 years in marketing, particularly from the digital side, right? I think a lot of us probably didn't even use email or the computers or internet going into the late 90s, and then all of a sudden, that's kind of, we can't imagine our lives without. So it's a lot's changed, but we specialize really in these bullets that I listed here, and I know a lot of agencies say that. I think the biggest thing that sets us apart is we help our clients on a strategic level. Big companies, and I'll kind of get into some of our clients, will come to us, kind of like you had described, Steve, where they need some strategic guidance, but they have their own team that can execute. And a lot of agencies, now they're either digital or traditional, whereas, we've got the experience where we've done both, being around for so long. We always say we bridge the digital divide. So again, traditional digital marketing, brand development, we still do a lot of communications, corporate communications, and we still do a lot of PR. So it's, I would say mostly now we're more, in digital, and we really have developed a deep niche in lead gen. Next, please. So this is a selection of our clients. As you can see, these are some of our bigger ones, but really been doing a lot in healthcare lately. Obviously, there's a lot going on in healthcare, so that's been a big vertical for us. With Rainier, obviously, more on the corporate side and B2B. Then we've, done higher ed, as well as real estate has been. Real estate, as you know, right during COVID, really slumped, and now it's come storming back. So we still do. We actually, one of our clients, kind of bittersweet, just rolled off yesterday. They sold their last unit, their condominium, the Palazzo on St. John's. It's right there at Bay Meadows and San Jose, and I always say it's right across from the Hooters, so that's how most people know it. But go ahead, please. So myself, it's funny, I was doing a LinkedIn post. This is my 20th year in marketing. Started in 2002. And really what I've kind of come full circle with it. And what we found is that there's a lot of people that do digital marketing. There's a lot of digital marketing experts. And what we've always done at the agency, and Caitlin as well, is continuing education and getting certified in these different disciplines. So really we can speak with authority on these things and not just be, kind of like those hucksters that, we can do this and we can do that. Really to develop that deep expertise is very, very important. I've also got some HubSpot certifications and Google Analytics, so it is something that we take very, very serious to have that level of expertise. On a personal note, this was our Christmas card photo. So my son is actually taller than me now, which is interesting, and he's only 15. But it's really funny when I look at and I consider my family and what I do for a living, because like in the generation I grew up, like I say, all through college. Siri's got something to tell me. through college, we didn't even have cell phones. So when I was like the last, right at the edge when I graduated, then everyone started carrying around those big bricks, those Nokias, and kind of looking at it now. And then, my middle son, he started out, still watching TV and then got into the tablets. And my youngest, all he's done since he was, knee-high is phones and tablets. So it's really been interesting to see how they use the internet, how they respond to different things when they're being marketed to and all that. And then my wife is at Florida Blue, and she has a project management position. So they're 100% remote and have been for a while. And so to kind of see her go through that transition has really been very interesting. And I think it's, a lot of us, we take our work home with us. So it's always fun to think about, how all this stuff, the effect that it has, what we're doing digitally. And my kids are like, oh, you're the one that builds all those ads that I get on my games? I don't like those. And it's like, yeah, well, they work. So and paying for you to go to college, so you better like them. Next, please. All right, so today's digital landscape, we're going to jump right in. So the biggest theme of marketing in 2022 was one word. You can hit the next, please. It's change. We talked a lot about change, and like I say, being in the field so long, it's really what I love the most about marketing. It's constantly changing, and the last couple of years has been no exception. We've just seen so much happen on so many different levels. I think we've talked a lot about that today, so I'll save a lot of those points, but it really has been a period of change, and a lot of companies, when that happens, bigger companies are typically slower to react and less proactive, whereas smaller companies can kind of get shiny object syndrome and go chase after the latest trend. And there needs to be a balance, and you need to be in the middle. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about. Next, please. So again, the biggest thing professionally, I think, is, like we've been talking about, the remote or hybrid work model. So Gartner, which is a big research firm I'm sure we're all familiar with, forecasted 51%, so more than half of the global knowledge workers. So knowledge workers are basically people that need to get online and to be able to do their jobs, are going to be remote by the end of last year. So they're still compiling the data, but to think about that, and I come from kind of that old school mentality of you have to be in your seat by 8 in the morning and you can't leave until a certain time, and you only have an hour for lunch and you can't go past. And so to me, that shift has been tremendous, and I think it's, like I keep saying, it's changed so much about what we do, but particularly how we market to those people that are going through all this. Next, please. So some of the impacts, I think you mentioned, Joanne, about your time is very important, right? So commuting. I don't know about y'all. I know, Caitlin, you live kind of far from our office. On a bad day, it would take over an hour to get in, and definitely an hour to get home, and every day, no matter when I left. So less commuting. That's 2 hours I'm getting back that I can work, that I can be exposed to different things. We kind of take for granted, but in big cities, a lot of people take mass transit, and when they're on those, if they're on a train or whatever, they're on their mobile device or even on their laptop. So that's been a big part of marketing. So more time equals more disposable income. We've seen a lot of our clients that are in, particularly like elective surgeries and those sorts of things. Travel is by far the biggest category that's increased since the pandemic as far as marketing spends. So more time equals more money. So the more disposable income, people are picking up new hobbies, taking up new interests, and this provides us with an opportunity from a marketing perspective. They don't want to be on their laptops and monitors as much, right? It used to be, you have that unplug period when you leave the office to when you get home, and I don't know about y'all, but I spend a lot of time on my laptop on the couch at night and different things. I don't do any of that anymore because I'm on that thing pretty much all day now, and I want to get on my tablet, I want to get on my phone, I want to watch TV, that sort of thing. So as we kind of have this screen migration, that's affected some things that we can do to market. More productivity. So this was something, again, when Jan and I, decided we're going to transition to, initially we were 100% remote, and now we're in the hybrid model. It's always a concern about productivity. And, we track our time with our client work very, very closely. We use a tool that down to the minute, will tell you what we're spending on projects and how efficient we're being, and are we making budget, are we over budget, et cetera. And when we started running the numbers, we found that things were getting more efficient and more productive. And our team, Caitlin had said, they preferred working at home. They liked it more, and it took me a little while to come around to it, but even now I do enjoy it better. So Protoscore, which is again another research firm, productivity's increased 47% since 2020. I happen to think that has a lot to do with people leaving jobs and that sort of thing, but again, it is a pretty important statistic when you look at how productive we've learned to become. I think every one of y'all mentioned your own personal situation of how working from home was challenging, but now you've got it figured out. We've all adapted, which a lot of people would say is the American way, right? We always find a way to overcome. We're very resilient, and that's certainly been the case relative to productivity. So again, all of this factors into how we can mold and align our strategies. Next, please. So again, what we've seen in the past couple of years as a result of all this change is really become top heavy from a platform perspective. So Amazon, Google, and Facebook's now Meta, they own 711 billion% or $1 billion of the market share. So really these platforms are where we're all hanging out. And that presents some other challenges that we'll talk about. It's made everything very high touch and noisy out there. So it's much harder to compete for your customers and prospects' attention, and it's also a lot more expensive now because everybody's kind of flocked online due to the fact that we've seen everyone's wasn't going out as much. Now things are reopening and we are started going out, but again that had a strong effect on it. And the consumer burnout. We're tired of being marketed to. I think we're really kind of at the tipping point of people know when they're being marketed to. People know when a spokesperson is actually pitching a product because they're being paid to. There's a lot more transparency now. I think we've all kind of realized with social media in particular how we get served up ads by looking at stuff online, sometimes even talking about stuff without even going online yet. We get served up these ads. So and again then there's the whole this is a bit controversial, but the idea of we're all in this together and in these unprecedented times. And it seemed like everybody had that message for so long, and people really, I feel, just got burned out on it. And a lot of companies have kind of pivoted away from that while still being empathetic and understanding of what people are going through, and been very, very successful. Next, please. So again, how do we line our strategies for success? And some of the key trends that we've identified are important if you want to get results. And I think, again, like we talk about with marketing, there's always change. And as a marketer and a communications professional, you need to stay ahead of these things if you want to be successful. And we're always kind of looking around corners. And particularly in the agency world, I'm sure, Steve, you get this a lot. People, should I market on TikTok, and should I jump on the latest trends and fads? And again, you have to approach these things with a balance if you want to be successful and really make the most of your marketing budget. Next, please. Okay, so what we've seen has been a huge surge is over-the-top advertising, or OTT. So the idea of OTT is you have traditional cable that goes into your house, and then you have media that goes over the top of that cable, right? So as a lot of us have Comcast. Comcast has broadcasts and cable TV. Then they also have internet, high-speed internet. And what we're seeing, and again, I have young kids and Caitlin as well, and probably some of y'all with even grown kids, there's been definitely a migration away from traditional cable and traditional media in general. And OTT has really filled that void. A lot of these streaming channels offer way more enhanced advertising capabilities than traditional cable, and the fact that they're interactive, right? So if we're on a streaming platform like Hulu, for instance, and we see an ad, we can click on that ad and go to a landing page and interact with that brand and learn more about their product or service and ultimately convert, right? So OTT gives you the ability to do that. Another thing too, if y'all, whatever you consume on traditional TV, but when the commercials come on, do you typically pull out your phone or your tablet and start browsing until the commercial's end? So commercials' effectiveness and reach on traditional media has really gone down as well because we just get so distracted. We want to put our attention somewhere else and then come back to our TV show. So that's had an effect on it as well. With OTT, you have to watch the commercial. They know that the delivery rate it's almost about 99%. Because you're actually on the device already, so unless you have a separate one. So that's been another strong performer for us as well. And if you look at this, 239 billion hours were spent using streaming apps in just the fourth quarter in 2020, which is kind of when things started easing up a little bit. So again, so many of these factors that had to do with the pandemic really drove us into more streaming platforms. And again, 65% it's videos that are streamed on mobile and TV apps. So There's a lot of advantages to OTT. We've even had success with our B2B clients because the targeting on OTT, if you think the targeting on social media is tight, OTT, I mean, they know everything because it's actually into our homes. So everything that goes over your home Wi-Fi, if you got multiple family members, they have all that data compiled. They know, our spending habits and that sort of thing, which is a little scary to think about, but I think we all understand the reality of all this technology, and we're able to harness that into some really good targeting that can be used for B2B as well. Next, please. Okay, so the second thing is dynamic content. So if you've been to any of my talks, and Caitlin as well, has talked today about video and how we've seen it just explode with all of our clients, whether it's small business, Fortune 500 companies, all the way B2B, business to consumer. Pretty much every industry out there can benefit in some form or fashion from video, and what we found is, okay, now that we've experienced all this since 2020, people are interested in new content that actually allows them to do something. So dynamic and interactive content is really the way to go. So this is a video we put together for one of our healthcare clients. You can see it's an animated style video. So these are great too during the pandemic because we couldn't go shoot people. Companies were locked down. So we were doing a lot of animated videos, and I think we did one. The biggest one we did was the technology company that's in B2B. It was an AI company. So that's kind of how we got started with this, and now it's something that pretty much every one of our big clients we're doing on a regular basis. And really, why these are successful and some of these other tools I'm going to mention is because it's something different. It's not and we love the talking head videos, so I don't want to talk down on them, so to speak, but it's just something different. It's more fun. It takes what could be a complex idea or a complex product or service and really distills it down into relatable terms that's very visually interesting. And obviously these videos can be shared across everything you're doing, social media, email marketing, all over your website, obviously, and blog. And they give your audience something to engage with, and we've had a lot of success. Next, please. So I got some examples. This is a tool that I actually use quite a bit. It's a budget planning tool. It's offered by HubSpot. And it's a little tough to see. I know the screen's small, but so it's like a little slider that you can put in and adjust this, and you can see what your return on your ad spend is going to be. And a lot of these tools you can make where they're conversion based. So if you want to see the results, or if one of them I've seen where you can build a report and they'll email you the report. So then obviously you have their email address and you can continue marketing to them. So this is really a very effective tactic that we've seen definitely in the past year or so take off. Next, please. Oh, this is IBM. So again, this is a B2B example of you can select the industry you're in. It's probably a little hard to read, but for instance, this is banking, consumer, energy, and it's a 3D modeling tool where you can actually move around. It's almost like a video game where you can move around the different components to see how your workspace will be configured based on the kind of industry you're in. And again, you can see they're even putting this on a tablet. The display of this is on a tablet to show people that it's as easy to use on their mobile device. Next, please. So those are the kind of things, the interactive content that, again, can really put you over the top, because if your competition's not doing it, which a lot of companies still haven't kind of gotten on board with, it's definitely a way to get an edge. So another tactic that we found, which is kind of goes against this is supposed to be a digital presentation, but again, mixing up what you're doing digitally with direct mail. We've seen a huge resurgence in direct mail, and I think it's I've seen a lot of jokes about like how when we were all staying at home, any little thing that happened we'd get so excited about, and so it's like the mailman comes, we want to go get the mail, and it's like we're gonna go take a walk, it's like if someone drives by your house, pretty much, right? So and so we saw, like I say, a big resurgence in direct mail, but again, going back, you can make direct mail more digital by mixing in a couple of techniques, and I'm gonna talk about that in a sec. But so the standard open rate, which I'm not entirely certain how they get an open rate on direct mail, but I think it's it's done by Forbes, so I think it's pretty reputable. But it's 90%, so much higher than if you look at like the standard email rate open. I think it's like 16%. So definitely a big improvement there. And Forbes estimates that over 40% read or scan the advertising mailers that they get. So it has become more viable. Next, please. And the way that you can use it to complement what you're doing with digital is direct people to a landing page, right? So instead of like, hey, visit our website at citizensinsurance.com, it's citizensinsurance.com/January's offer or whatever you come up with. And so then you get people onto a specific page with message match and much higher percentage to convert them. Another thing that we've been really big on as a lead gen agency is call tracking. So for the longest time, people would say, well, I send out mailers, I don't know if they're getting calls or not. So we apply custom call tracking numbers of those, and we can show them on a live interface, look, this is how many calls you got, this is the duration of the calls, how long they were, and you can even listen to them from a customer service standpoint. If we do a lot with healthcare where for HIPAA we can't record, but we also do like service companies like AC and plumbing, and we'll definitely get some doozies on there, but you can listen to those calls and get an understanding, again, that can be applied back into your messaging. You can use cookies. I talked earlier about how we get remarketed to on social media. So think of this as a concept. You're sending someone a physical piece of mail. They go to your website, we capture them, and then you can remarket to them on all the platforms that are important, like Google, Facebook, LinkedIn if you're B2B, and again, things that maybe 5 years ago weren't possible, now we can do with something that's been around for so long as direct mail. Another thing that's very cutting edge that we've started to do, and if y'all have heard of like geolocating or geo-marketing, where you can say, okay, I want to market in this area downtown Jacksonville. Now we can even take it a step further and use IP-based marketing that goes into that company's, so say it's a big corporation like Citizens, for instance, in Tallahassee, we can get into y'all's IP block and market to all the employees when they're on company Wi-Fi with different products and services. So again, it seems a little invasive, but these are things that you can take advantage of and leverage with direct mail, because you can match up your list, whether you're just sending them to homes or different businesses. Put that list with your IP marketing and directly get in there for some display advertising as well. Next, please. So another thing is reviews. So, and again, I've talked about this over the years in a lot of the presentations I've done, but they've, for a variety of reasons, become much more important, online reviews. People are really hesitant to, maybe, I think we've been advertised to so much on social media, and some of those products that we get, they don't kind of match what we thought we were getting. And there's a natural tendency now, more so than ever, to go and look for reviews online, both on, public sites as well as with peers, right? Like go on Facebook and say, hey, look, we're getting ready to buy new air conditioners. Anyone done this or this? And they're expensive. It's an important decision you want to make. Who have you guys used before for this kind of service, et cetera? And now it's 90%. 9 out of 10 consumers read reviews before they make a purchase. And this was from 2020. So this was during the pandemic. So very updated statistics. A lot of the review statistics I always feel are dated. These are pretty updated. And then almost 80% trust reviews online as much as they would any other source, which is a little scary if you ever read reviews, because there's some pretty colorful ones out there. But these are things that a lot of companies take for granted, and it's really never been more important to not only make sure your reviews look good online, but have a system in place to continue to get them. And that's what we've been helping companies with, particularly when you onboard a new customer, whether they just made a purchase or they've just become a client with you. It's kind of like that honeymoon period. That's the best time to ask for reviews, and there's systems in place, automated systems with software you can use, or you can do it, we have like doctor's offices that we work with. It's as simple as just getting the patients with a tablet to write the review right while they're in the office. These have become more important than ever. Next, please.
So is that what you mean by making sure the reviews look good, to solicit them and that sort of thing?
Absolutely, yeah, and be kind of smart about how you do it. If somebody didn't have a good experience, maybe hold off.
Right.
Because no one's perfect, right? Also, there are systems where on your website you can only display 5- and 4-star reviews, so they pull them automatically, but they only pull the 4- and 5-star. So it's little things that you can do here and there that make it important, and particularly on social media, when a customer writes like a really glowing review, we'll publish that on our clients' social media, and that always gets really good engagement. And I think that's always a strong tactic to use as well. Okay, and then, so again, not only do people, research them, they also help with SEO or search engine optimization. So Google likes to see and promote companies that have a good reputation, right? They don't want to promote a 1-star company in search results. They want to put the 5-star company. So very, very important. This is just a graphic. This is really hard to read, and I apologize, but 90% of companies are using review software platforms now versus like manually asking for reviews. So this is something that we have several systems that we've helped our clients, start using and maintain on an ongoing basis. Obviously, bigger companies need a more robust piece of software. We have, even like small business software, like you mentioned, Constant Contact. They have a review piece as well. So there's a lot of ways that you can leverage these, and they're very, very powerful. And again, more of a low budget tactic than maybe some of the stuff that that's out there. Next. So that's what I have. You've already jumped in with some questions. Doug, does anyone have any other questions?
Yeah, I've always just sort of been curious about how people manage their reviews, because that is such an important thing.
We have a LASIK clinic that we work with, and they use text messages for reviews. They say, hey, great appointment, hope it looked like you were happy when you left. Did you have any reviews you want to leave for us? Here's a link. And usually they're on cloud 9 when they come out of there. And so they go in and write a review. And we've gotten them, I think they're up to like 149 reviews. I think we started with like 11.
I see a lot of businesses doing it, like the nail salon will do it, the Acura dealership. Hey, how there's a lot
They
of...
solicit you by text, yeah, that's
Yes.
how it was.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to put some stuff in here about text messaging, but it's very consumer driven, but we've had a lot of our clients now are doing like mass text message, just like they would an email blast. They do text blasts, and that's become, because again, we're so used to texting. I mean, that's, like you mentioned, like my doctor, I always schedule my visits via text now because I don't like to call and,
Yeah, I do that too. Yeah, it's amazing how they're using that more. A question regarding cookies. So I saw that on there, and it just seems like over the last probably 4 months, it seems like I'm getting every site that I'm on.
Yeah.
You have to, even before you get on, you have to accept their cookies. Like you can't even get any further. And so I've seen that used more and more. And my concern that I have is because I'm around on many websites. I mean, you can clear cookies out too.
That's right.
Can't you? And what do you go into the system hardware and clear? Because my concern is I have so much. I'm always, I don't know, it seems like every site I'm going in, I have to be accepting cookies all the time in order to get to where I'm going.
It is getting heavy-handed. If you use a browser called Brave, it's they restrict all cookies. And it's all, it's essentially if you were in incognito on your Google Chrome browser, it's always incognito and they can't track anything. Well, allegedly they can't track anything. That's what they say. But it does, we've noticed that one, definitely you'll get less. And Apple now has passed their privacy restrictions are in place. So you can't cookie Apple users to the extent that you could in the past.
Yeah, so it just seems, and I get it from a marketing perspective. And then the other thing that I just have a question about is, and it happens all the time in our house and we laugh about it, but it's like the big brother of those of us who remember the 1984 George Orwell book. But you talk about exercising and then all of a sudden, or you talk about whatever, and then all of a sudden you're seeing that on, I mean, I understand location already, because when I go to different areas of the country or in Florida, I start getting the ads based on where my phone is. So I'm already getting that one, but what really gets me is that when you talk about a subject that's so benign and all of a sudden you're getting an ad on it, it's like, so what is the back end of it?
Well, the microphone of your mobile device, typically, if you haven't restricted a lot of it, a lot of those apps are using the microphone. If you have smart speakers in your house,
No, we don't have.
a lot of that's getting recorded as well. Yeah, you have to be really careful with
I
those.
turn it off.
And there's been the doorbell cameras. A lot of that stuff is not as private as you think. So it's all that factors in to, and a lot of it is browsing activity in some form or fashion. If you have Wi-Fi in your house, all that's being recorded by the big data providers like Comcast, Amazon, etc. It's a little scary to think about, but
Yeah, but it's also a very interesting tool should you need to market,
Exactly.
I'm really glad you said direct marketing. Everything that you said about the direct mailing, for instance, I haven't actually implemented that somewhere. We have a Ready for Veggies bus with the Boys and Girls Clubs. We have this direct mailing budget between now and the end of the year, and I was just saying, we could create these opportunities. So I'm actually glad of you talking about that because it kind of affirmed the idea and put it to reality that could happen.
Absolutely.
So that was interesting.
Yeah, it's very surprising to me, again, as a big digital marketing proponent, that direct mail has been so successful, but it's it can't be ignored. It's the results we've got through, and Caitlin does a lot of our design for it, and it's really taken off.
It's like what's old is new again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
full circle.
It's new.
Full circle, yeah.
But when you talked about the mail person, the big thing is the mail's here.
Yeah. Everything became exciting again.
It's like, let me get up and go get the mail.
Yeah.
You've been sitting down the entire time. It's so funny, but you're up.
Something new to look at, right?
Yeah, some of the comments that you made. You talked about certifications and training and stuff like that. So where obviously this is we're a smaller group, of course, today, but professional communicators. I mean, as we move on, where are those certifications coming from?
Sure. That's become like a cottage industry. I mean, there's a whole slew of ways you can get different levels of certification. I think we use the Digital Marketing Institute. I got a lot of value out of theirs. It was pretty affordable too. Obviously, anything with Google or Facebook.
Oh, that's interesting because that professional development is so important. I mean, I think that especially during the last 2 years, I've missed that portion. I mean, I haven't done a lot on my own. And that's why I enjoy meetings like this.
Absolutely.
I always walk away with an aha moment like, oh.
Well, if you look at other industries or disciplines, like for instance accounting, there's so many standardized ways of becoming a qualified certified accountant, or lawyer, for instance, or doctor. Whereas with marketing, it's like the Wild West. I mean, anybody can be an expert marketer, and there's no way to really vet. What have they done? And so I think the certifications that falls into the bucket of like, okay, this individual is legitimate. I mean, they put the time in, they've learned these different things and applied the lessons and that sort of thing, and had that level of success. And we're seeing it more and more where that's becoming almost a criteria to get in the door with a lot of companies. They want to know that you've managed X amount of budget spend on different platforms to even talk to you, which is scary because that can be inflated in different things. But
by the way, if anybody's interested, see we're on the topic of certification. I'm giving some thought to hosting another IABC certification. It's called this Communications Management Professional Certification. IABC does it in cooperation with another group this year. So if anybody's interested, get in touch with me.
Nice.
We were talking about that, Sheila and I, actually in another room, and because I know we're on video. But they have a book now, a new book out too. So if you can do some research and circle back around with us,
Get the book.
Yeah, to kind of find out what their new platform is for their certification. Because
I can tell you there's a new person, Sarah Fowdy is no longer.
Okay, good. Well,
so I have reached out and I started getting.
I didn't mean it that way. It's nice that there's a person and coming in. So that would be great because we have two here that would be interested.
Oh, okay. It's good to know. I've learned something. Yeah.
Well, Chris, thank you.
Oh, thank y'all. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a whole, when you haven't been in those circles, it's a whole area of marketing that you don't even realize is existing, but it is, and it's, what is your, in closing, what would you say, like, over the last year or so when you've done this digital with clients, what is one of your biggest successes that you've had that you can share, like, with one of your clients?
Yeah, I think a lot of what we did during the heat of the pandemic, and when everyone was scared and freaking out, and just helping them all get through. I think we only lost one client throughout the whole thing, and I think it was really just.
We're solid busy as a whole.
Yeah, it was kind of like cheesy to say, but just providing support and realizing like how valued we were to our clients versus just like they pay us and we do work for them. I mean, really, the relationships you build with the people that you work with, and I think we all talked about family in different ways. You're around, your people you work with 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and you're home not as much, and then you're sleeping. So, what you're doing with those folks is, I think there's a lot of meaningful stuff that happens, and we really learned that in the pandemic. As far as like specifics, I don't know, it almost felt like we helped keep some of them in business, because, they just, like there was no one was coming in anymore. So it's like, okay, how can we get virtual? And like Facebook Live, we did a ton of stuff with Facebook Live to help a lot of our clients, get through that period where they couldn't have people come into their offices conferences. And you know, learning that platform, and I think it was like even Zoom, if you remember, Zoom has kind of a checkered past relative to privacy. If you Google that, yeah, so it was interesting when Zoom became so popular. A lot of like you say you use Teams, a lot of big corporations won't use Zoom because of some of the security things. But anyway, so you know, figuring all that out and like having to move 100 miles an hour to say, okay, look, here's something you can try, and stay afloat. I think that was really rewarding.